We're told that if work feels empty, the answer is to find more meaningful work, audit the industry, reframe the role, build a personal brand. Wrong. The emptiness doesn't live in the job title. It doesn't live in the company, the salary, or the industry. The reason most people feel hollow inside good careers is that somewhere along the way, they stopped being a person and became a job. And no amount of career pivoting fixes a problem that was never about the career. Claire was 36 when she caught herself in the middle of a Monday morning presentation and felt absolutely nothing. Not boredom, not frustration, a specific clean absence that lasted 4 seconds before her professional autopilot re-engaged and she kept talking. She had a $127,000 salary, a senior product manager title she'd worked 9 years to reach, a LinkedIn profile her manager called impressive. She'd bought a house the year before. The next milestone, a good house in a good neighborhood, and she felt nothing when she signed the papers either. Her 34-year-old brother worked at a coffee shop. He seemed inexplicably more present in a given Tuesday than she'd been in 3 years. She only had output. Here's the neuroscience behind what happened to her. The brain has a structure called the hippocampus that encodes narrative memory. It's the story of who you are, what matters, and where you've been. When work becomes the primary domain of identity, the hippocampus and default mode network literally rewire to store career experiences as the central thread of the life narrative. Researchers call this identity fusion. It's why the linguistic shift from I work as a product manager to I am a product manager isn't casual. It's neurological. The job isn't describing you anymore, it's organizing you. And when something that organized you fails, disappears, or stops feeling real, what fires in the brain is indistinguishable from tribal banishment. The threat signal is the same. The loss registers the same way. Gallup's 2026 State of the Global Workplace Report measured what this looks like at scale. Global employee engagement fell to 20% in 2025. This was its lowest point in years, with 64% of workers worldwide classified as quiet quitters. The economic cost is $10 trillion. But here's the more precise number. About half of all employees are actively searching for new jobs, yet quit rates sit near decade lows. People aren't trapped by their contracts. They're trapped by the question waiting on the other side of leaving, the one that asks who you are if you're no longer this. Deloitte's 2026 survey of 22,500 workers across 44 countries found that only 6% of millennials and Gen Z prioritize leadership positions, not because they're disengaged, because 50% cite burnout as the primary barrier. They have watched the generation ahead of them trade mental health for titles. They arrive at something that looks like success from the outside while costing them their health, their relationships, and 20 years they cannot retrieve. The movement isn't laziness. It's a refusal to fuse entirely with a system that was never designed to love them back. Month 6 into her search for a more meaningful role, Claire had spoken to 3 career coaches. She applied for 9 positions in adjacent industries. Each conversation opened with some version of, I think I'd find more purpose if, and each coach helped her rearrange the same variables. Different company, same pattern. The same self arriving at every interview. The self that had no answer to the question of who she was outside of what she produced. The career wasn't the problem. Claire was bringing Claire to every opportunity, and Claire had no idea who she was without the title to introduce her. Here's what research consistently shows about people with high career identity. They experience greater psychological distress than those with diversified identities. They adjust more slowly to professional setbacks. They report more persistent depression after job loss, not because the career mattered more, but because the self was more fragile. Every performance review becomes a referendum on worth. Every failed project becomes evidence about character. The prefrontal cortex, running under constant amygdala threat signals, stops making decisions based on authentic desire. It starts defending identity instead. You're not pursuing what you want, you're protecting what you are. Here's the math. Identity is not a head start, it's a foundation. And a foundation built entirely on one domain collapses completely when that domain shifts. One title, one role, one place you belong. But a foundation built across 3 distinct identities is different. Someone who happens to work in product, who is also a runner, who is also the person their community calls when something needs organizing. For them, no single loss can touch all of it at once. Psychologists call this self-concept complexity. The more developed your non-work identities, the more contained any professional setback becomes. The distress doesn't disappear, it just stops taking everything with it. Claire joined a ceramics class in March, not for stress relief, not as self-care, because a teacher she'd never met called her a natural. For the first time in 4 years, something registered as a compliment that had nothing to do with deliverables. She was bad at at it for 11 weeks. She kept going. By month 4, she had a sentence she hadn't had before. I work in product, and I'm also learning to make things with my hands. 2 clauses, 2 identities. The second one asked nothing about her output. She only had output until she built something that didn't need to be impressive to be hers.